to our webinar today.
Hi, everyone. It's lovely to have all of you.
We are really excited for you to be here. We are going to put a little poll on your screen while everybody gets settled. And we're just curious how long you have been a customer of Cognito Forms. Oh, I see
One
a
to two
lot
years,
of,
5.
1 to 2 years, 2 to 5, 5. Cool. Well, we are really happy to have you guys here today and to tell you all about guest access. Okay. Um, let me, here we go. So I am Bethany and I'm joined today by my colleague Deepa, and we are both product marketing specialists here at Cognito Forms. We mainly interact with customers to learn more about their experience, and we take the knowledge that we learn from those meetings back to our product managers and internal teams to really find ways that we can improve the experience with our product. So we're also always working to show customers how you can get the most out of Cognito Forms. And um, we actually met directly with several customers to test out guest access before we launched the feature. So we are very excited to share it with you. We really believe it can transform how you collaborate with people outside of your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do know your time is valuable. So we're really glad that you're here with us today. Before we dive into what guest access is and all the fun details, just a few quick logistics. That your chat is private, so only you and our moderators can see your messages. So please don't hesitate to ask any questions or send any thoughts our way. And our moderators standing by will do their absolute best to get to your question and respond. And of course, if they're unable to respond, no worries at all. You can always submit a support ticket, and our amazing customer support team will be so happy to help afterwards. And please don't worry about taking notes today. We will be sharing the recording with you after the webinar, so you will be able to look back on it and review anything that you might miss. And just as a quick key point to note, this webinar is simply meant to inform all of you about the how and why we created this feature. We'll walk through a high level of the user experience, but we will not be diving into any of the technical setup details. For any of those setup instructions or technical implementation guidance, you're more than welcome to visit our user guides, and we'll be sending out the links to those afterward, and it's also available on our website. So today, we are talking about guest access. It's a new feature on our team and enterprise plan, and it helps you essentially reimagine your external collaboration through secure workflows and portals. So at its core, guest access is a secure, seamless way to share forms, entries, and tasks with people outside of your organization. So we're talking about your clients, your customers, patients, students, volunteers, basically anyone who needs to interact with your forms but doesn't need access to your entire Cognito Forms organization.
Just like Deepa said, these people are really important to your processes and you're probably working with them often, but you wouldn't necessarily make them a user of your organization. The addition to guest access really aligns with our mission of empowering anyone, regardless of technical expertise, to build the solutions they need. And so, what this means for you is the ability to build custom forms and workflows for any process, especially so you can be more productive when you are collaborating externally.
Yeah, and overall, we simply want to help you keep your workflows moving forward using automation and without the constant need for the manual intervention. So, moving forward, why exactly did we build this feature? Rather than guessing what you all, our customers, might need, we wanted to hear directly from you, so we decided to ask. We sent out a survey to gather your input as well as understand what you needed to confirm that this was an actual feature that would be worth creating. And through our interviews through the years, Bethany and I had heard of our customers ask about this feature for this feature. So we're very excited that it's finally here for you all to use. When we surveyed our customers in that survey last year, 72% said that they needed a self-service portal for their external users. That's nearly 3/4 of the respondents identifying this as a true, real need, something that would help them collaborate more easily with people outside of their organization.
And then we dug even deeper to understand what specific capabilities were most important to those customers. We found that 89% of the customers we surveyed found it important for their guests to be able to view and update previous submissions. And it was equally as important for them to be able to assign tasks to their guests. When we initially launched workflow tasks, you could only assign tasks to users of your organization. And in our previous workflow tasks webinar, we had multiple customers ask us how they could use the feature with their customers, their clients, and just external users in general. It came down to our customers wanting a better way to interact with those people outside of their organization when they were using Cognito Forms.
Yes, and in addition, 66% of customers told us that they wanted their external users to verify their email address before accessing a workflow link. Currently, if you have the workflow link, anyone can click on it, open it, and access a form. And the idea of being able to verify an email or have only certain people access that link makes total sense, especially when you're dealing with sensitive information. You want to be confident that the right person is opening and completing your form. And as a result, security and verification were definitely top concerns of ours, in addition to being able to better engage with your guests.
Yeah. And before we go any further into guest access, I want to quickly touch on what we will cover today. We are focusing on practical applications so that you can leave with concrete ideas for how guest access could work for you.
Yeah, and we won't be really doing the click this button or then that button style of walkthrough today, like our past webinars have been. But don't worry, we do have detailed user guides, as I previously mentioned, set up, as well as lovely videos that walk you through the step-by-step setup. But today is instead all about showing you how this feature could look like in action for your specific organization, how it can work in your world, and ultimately help you create a better experience for your guests and external users.
Yeah, so we will explore some challenges that you are likely facing right now with external collaboration, and then how guest access can help address those. And because there are a few different ways you can use the feature, we will walk through 3 detailed scenarios with a demo of each one, showing you exactly what guest access could look like on your end, and then also on your customer's end. We'll also look at a couple of our customers and how they are currently using guest access. And then we will briefly touch on how you can get started.
Yeah, lots of exciting stuff. And again, just to reiterate, please feel free to drop any questions you have into the chat. Our moderators will do their best to answer them, but any specific questions about your use case, please save those for our customer support team, because they'll be better able to dive into the logistics and answer all of those niche questions for you all. And don't forget, we will be recording this, and this will be sent to you in the next couple of days. So now, let's take a closer look at some of the challenges that come up when you're using workflows with external users, such as your clients, partners, etc. Currently, the first major challenge we've identified is scattered information. Think about what your clients or whomever you work with are doing right now. Where do they find the form link that you sent them? It's unfortunately most likely buried somewhere within the several emails sitting in their inbox. And what do they do if they want to check on the status of something they've previously submitted? They're most likely reaching out to you or sending you an email or calling you to ask for an update.
Yeah, and all of this scattered information then leads to our second challenge of just the lack of self-service in general. Your customers aren't able to do anything themselves. So if they need to update something, they have to ask you. And if they need to check if you received their submission, they will likely reach out again.
Yeah, and because they can't really self-serve or do anything or check any details on their own, they're constantly having to reach out to you or your team with questions or requests for these updates. And that oftentimes causes you to have to step away from your tasks and daily work that you must be getting done to address these questions. Your guest dependency on you and your team then leads to staff spending so much of their time sending reminders and answering the "Where's my form" emails. And that is our next challenge here. They're being pulled away from their more important work to make updates or changes that clients could probably make themselves only if they had a way to do so. All of the manual work is causing a lot of back and forth and stepping away from your daily tasks.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone keeps track of all of the back and forth. I know I struggle even with just the smallest amount of it. So having dozens of clients that it's happening with has to be overwhelming. On top of all of these challenges, many teams are also concerned about security when they're sharing sensitive data externally. We've had customers tell us that while they love workflow or save and resume links and the convenience that it gives them, it becomes difficult for them to control who is actually opening the link and making updates to the entry. Whoever initially received that link could forward it to anyone and give them access to open it up, fill out the form, even with that potentially sensitive information.
Yeah, and this is a huge one, especially for our larger organizations. Without any sort of authentication or validation that the correct person is accessing and submitting information, you don't have an audit trail or a way to control that access or see who's clicked on the link, opened it, etc. So that covers all of our challenges today. And before we move on, I'd like to put a poll on the screen and ask all of you which of the following pain points you've experienced the most while working with your customers. Oh, yeah, the manual follow-ups, huge.
All of the
Love
above. I
Truly
love
all
that.
of the above. Yeah, that all of the above makes sense. I think that would be my answer as well.
Yeah, agreed.
Perfect. So, moving along, when Bethany and I talked to customers about all of these challenges, three main things kept popping up. Number one, customers needed a better way to collaborate throughout their workflows with those people outside of their organization. Number two, they wanted to give external people a way to independently manage their work and do some of those simple tasks on their own. And number three, they really needed a way to assign tasks to those external people and send automatic reminders, email anyway, anyhow to do so, to them about those tasks. And that one, the email reminders, has come up so many times. We've heard that question asked from so many customers. And I know a lot of you have been very excited once we released that feature recently. And so we're excited to share more with you about it.
Yeah, that one has been really exciting for customers. So, guest access really helps you achieve all of these things by putting your guest in control. It gives your external users the ability to securely log in with a one time code that's sent to their email, or they can also log in with trusted login providers like Google, Microsoft, or Facebook. This basically means that guests won't need to remember a password that is easily forgotten, especially if they aren't logging in on a frequent basis. And they also won't need to deal with resetting any passwords either. So essentially, everything stays secure for you, but it's also still very convenient for your guest as well.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great way to be able to allow guests to log in without having to remember one more password. But moving forward, now your guests can submit new forms directly from the portal and one central location. There's no more questions like, where did I put that link you sent me 3 weeks ago? Can you resend that link to me? With this feature, if you have clients filling out a handful of forms on a more frequent basis, you no longer have to send them a list of the links to access all of the forms, or find a place on your website to link all of those forms. They can simply have the one portal link, log into the portal, find the forms they need, and complete it easily on their own.
And then on top of being able to submit new forms, guests can also view and update all of their past submissions in one place. So maybe they're needing to reference the details from a submission for something else they're doing, or they need to make a change to something that they've already submitted, or they just simply need to track the workflow progress of a particular submission. With guest access, your guests can do all of these things from one place, and not just for one form, but across multiple forms. So if a guest has 3 different forms with past submissions on them, they can easily find any of those all in one place.
Yeah, I'm so excited that guests can go in and do this on their own. I feel like it's such a good feature. And lastly, in addition to all of this, your guests can now view and complete tasks assigned specifically to them. So, for example, if you need them to fill out a certain section of in the middle of your form, or add their signature to a contract form or anything, they can easily do so on their own. You can assign those as tasks for your guests, and all they'll have to do is log into the portal, view that assigned task in the dashboard, just like you do when you log into Cognito Forms, and complete their task on their own.
Yeah, the addition of tasks, I feel like, just kind of tops it all off. But guest access is not just about empowering your guests, it's also about giving you the power to stay in control of everything. By default, your guests can only see their own submissions and no one else's. And you get to decide what your guests can see, edit, and update in your portal, as well as when they can see or edit those submissions. So that becomes really useful if, let's say, you only wanted your guests to see their entry at a certain point in the workflow. You can kind of control all of that because guest access is so flexible.
Yeah, and additionally, when assigning those entries as tasks to your guest, you can send up to 3 automated email reminders for each task, configured for specific dates or a set amount of time before or after a due date. Your staff no longer needs to manually follow up with guests and keep track of that on the side or separately. They can now simply set up those 3 automated email reminders and have that go out automatically. And this is going to dramatically reduce the number of internal and manual follow-ups and save loads of time spent on those administrative tasks.
Yeah. And then also as an admin, you can keep track of who's logging in, their most recent login date, and how many logins that they had each month. This helps eliminate any guesswork on your end and makes it very clear which of your guests used guest access and how many guests you had that month. So it's really convenient to simply go to the table and see which of your guests have been engaging with guest access.
Yeah. And lastly, I think the best part about all of this is that you're essentially able to deliver professional experiences that feel like a natural extension of your business. This helps your organization build trust and demonstrate professionalism with your guests. And it also helps improve the overall experience for all of your clients, customers, guests in general. Personally, I love how professional it feels. Instead of sending an arbitrary link to a form in an email without much context, you're now able to simply give your guests one link to log into a portal and ask them to complete forms, view their tasks, make updates, edits, etc., all with ease. It definitely alleviates the overall customer experience and makes it much cleaner for your guests to use.
I totally agree with that. I agree with how professional of an experience it can help you provide. So, enough talking about it. Let's go ahead and actually see how guest access works in action. Like we said, guest access was built to be extremely flexible. Everything we do at Cognito Forms, we know that every organization has unique processes. And even with the same type of process, there are often slight nuances from one organization to another. So we always aim to make every aspect of our product as customizable as possible so that you can build solutions that actually fit the way you work rather than forcing you to change how you operate to fit into the software that you are using.
Exactly. And I think this flexibility is what makes guest access so powerful at the end of the day. It works across any organization and adapts to all the different ways you might need to connect with people outside of your team. For today's demos, we'll be looking at a fictional nonprofit called Helping Hands Community Center. They focus on community outreach and run everything from emergency grants to food assistance and family services. While each of the three use cases we're going to walk through today are unique, they all reflect real processes at Helping Hands. Together, they'll show you just how versatile guest access can be, no matter the type of guest, form, or process.
Okay, so for our first scenario, we are creating a volunteer portal. Helping Hands relies heavily on volunteers, and they need a simple way for volunteers to access their forms, sign up for events, and access any other work that they have. And they want them to be able to do it all in one place and at any time. But even though this example is for volunteers, you can use this general scenario for any process where you know who your guests are beforehand, anywhere that you want to give them ongoing access to a portal, or when you want your guests to create new submissions on forms from that like one central secure place. Okay, let's go ahead and see how this looks.
We're going to start as a staff member already logged into Cognito Forms. We've already turned on guest access in our organization settings, and we've also gone ahead and customized what guests see when they log into the portal by adding a custom welcome message and the links to our privacy policy and terms of service. This allowed guest type section is what defines who can log in as a guest, and you'll notice we've checked the volunteer profile form here. This form stores each of our volunteers' personal and contact information and serves as our guest list for our volunteer portal. Because we have this form checked under allowed guest types, every volunteer marked as active instantly becomes a guest with access to log into our portal. Let's take a closer look at how a volunteer interacts with the portal. When they go to our Community Center's unique portal link, they're prompted to verify their email address and accept our privacy policy and terms of service before logging in. Just a quick note, you'll notice that the link to your portal is simply cognitoforms.com/your organization's name. It's short and easy for guests to remember. Now, once the volunteer is logged in, they're taken to the homepage for our portal. The custom welcome message we added provides our volunteers with helpful information and even a recent announcement. All volunteers will see this message when they log in. Guests can view each available form from the sidebar here, along with any entry views they have access to for that form. All guests will only see the forms, views, and entries they've been granted access to. Let's look at the Submit Hours view first. This view is a form view that our volunteers can use to log their service hours each week. Form views are perfect for frequently submitted forms. They allow you to keep all your forms in one place, so guests can easily access what they need without hunting for links or constantly reaching out to staff members for help. Once the volunteer submits the form, they're taken to a different entry view, a grid view that shows all of their past service hour submissions. From here, they can open any entry to view the details, make updates if permitted, or even complete actions as part of the workflow. What they can see and do in each entry is fully customized. We've used conditional logic to control which fields, sections, and actions are visible and editable for volunteers. Now, let's check out how our volunteers manage their tasks. We've set up things so that all of their assigned tasks appear in one place, right here in the task dashboard. From here, volunteers can jump into any task, make updates, and mark them as complete. No more digging through emails or searching for links. Finally, let's look at how volunteers manage their own profile information. When they click on their profile photo or avatar, they can update their information on their own, keeping records up to date without staff intervention. With guest access, we're able to provide our volunteers with a streamlined, secure, and truly self service experience, all while freeing up our team's time and maintaining control over what volunteers can see and do.
My favorite part about this scenario is the task dashboard. I just really love that you can have all of your tasks, even across multiple forms, all in one view. I just think it's really nice and convenient for your guests.
I agree. And I think the best part, in addition to that, is the volunteer didn't even have to receive a single email. You can, of course, if you do want to notify them, you can absolutely set that up, but it's totally optional and not entirely necessary. Okay, moving forward to our second scenario for the program interest and eligibility certification. This one highlights how you can use guest access to securely verify guests when they're accessing workflow links. So, Helping Hands offers members the opportunity to enroll in a food assistance program. Members start by submitting an interest form for the program. Once that's reviewed, the team on the internal side moves the workflow forward and requests any member who submitted the form to also submit documents to verify their eligibility. In this case, we want to turn on authentication for the workflow links we send back to the members to verify their eligibility so that when they return to update their form or complete a task, we know it's really them. This approach is helpful when you don't already have a guest list in place, but still want to make sure that only the right person can access a form using a workflow or save and resume link. It's sort of bringing in the idea of secure authentication to the concept of portals and guest access. And that's really especially important when dealing with any sort of personal or sensitive information, like this example is with eligibility or income verification. Let's go ahead and see how this all works.
To kick off the process for our food assistance program, we've already had families complete the first step of the food assistance interest and eligibility form, where they submitted their interest in enrolling in the program. Now it's time for them to securely certify their eligibility to apply. After a member submits their interest, we review their submission from the entries page here. We'll go ahead and click Request Eligibility Documents to automatically email them a personalized workflow link. We've already configured this action button to send an email to the member with a workflow link in the public role. Since we've also already enabled authentication for workflow links in the build page, the guest will now be prompted to verify their email and enter a code before accessing the form. When a guest clicks on their link, they'll be prompted to verify their email, and it has to match the email address the link was originally sent to. If they try using a different email, they will not be able to access the form. This is one of the key benefits of guest access. Before, anyone with this link could open and view the form. Now, only the intended recipient can access it, increasing the privacy and security of our members' personal information. Once they've verified their email, they'll be taken to the next part of the form. Here, they can enter details about their household income and upload any required documents to certify their eligibility. Then they can press Submit Eligibility Docs to submit the form. What's great about this setup is that the workflow link only shows the section of the form they need to complete. Once they're done, they're done. It's simple and straightforward. Earlier in our first scenario, we showed how guests on a guest list could access a portal to view and update entries and complete tasks. In this scenario, even though we're not using a guest list, we can still give guests the ability to view their submission later if needed. You don't have to use a guest list for your guests to have access to their previous submissions. However, you would need to use a guest list if you wanted them to access form views. Just like in the first scenario, guests can log in using our Community Center's unique portal link. In order for them to see their entry, though, we'll have to create an entry view in the public role. This gives them a way to securely access the portal and view their entry. On the admin side, here's how we set that up. Go to the entries page for your form, click the plus sign, and select New Grid View. Name it My Submissions and assign it to the public role. Uncheck Allow New Entries because we don't want them to be able to add new entries from the portal. Click Save, and now we've created a grid view for our guest. Now, going back to the guest perspective, when they log in using the unique portal link, they'll land on the portal's homepage. They'll see the My Submissions grid view in the sidebar, and once they click on it, they'll be taken to that grid view. From here, they can keep track of the workflow status of their submission or open it to view the information they submitted. We've also set it up so that they can make updates if needed. Of course, this step is completely optional. If you'd prefer not to give portal access for your use case, you don't have to. That said, it's a great way to give guests visibility into their submissions without needing to manage a guest list like we did in the earlier example.
Yeah, and as you can see here, the flexibility is really nice. You can decide how much access to give your guests and whether or not you want them to even access the portal in the first place. So you can use guest access to simply have them to authenticate your workflow links so your guests can verify who they are. Or in addition to that, you can also provide them access to the portal, just like you saw us do here. It's very secure, customizable, and works exactly the way you need it to.
It really does. I think it's really cool how flexible it can be. Okay, so moving on to our last scenario, we are collecting grant applications here. So these applications include a lot of sensitive data, and it's important for helping hands to maintain visibility into who submits each application. While we are showing grant applications here, the general scenario can be used in situations where you don't know who your guests are beforehand, or you want to just track the email address of who is submitting each entry. And then also just when you want to protect sensitive data that is being collected. So essentially, this scenario is public facing, but it's authenticated. Anyone can start the process, they just have to verify who they are beforehand. So this option is great for any form where you need that audit trail for security purposes, but you don't necessarily need guests to revisit or make changes to past submissions. Okay, let's see how this works.
In this example, we'll use guest access to securely authenticate anyone applying for our emergency assistance grant. For this form, we've gone ahead and shared the form's public link directly with people who want to apply. If we wanted to, we could also easily add this link to our website for anyone to find on their own. Because we want each person completing the form to verify their email address prior to accessing it, we've already enabled authentication for public links and set it to guests and users. We also turned on authentication for save and resume links. This is so that if our guests can't complete the form in one go, they can easily pause and securely return to the application later. Now, moving on to the guest experience. When they click the public link we shared with them earlier, they'll be prompted to verify their email and enter a code before they can access the form. After verifying their email, the form will pop up and they can fill out the fields and submit the form. If a guest isn't able to complete the form in one sitting, they can choose to save their progress. This sends them a secure save and resume link by email, so they can come back to it later. When they return, they'll just need to verify their email again to pick up where they left off. No extra steps required. This keeps their personal and sensitive data secure, ensuring that only the intended recipient can access the form. Once guests submit their application, that's it. Because ongoing or follow up access isn't necessary, we skipped setting up public entry views or portal access. It's a simple, secure, and one time interaction for our guest. Guest access gives us exactly what we need here: authenticated public links, secure save and resume, and tracking who submits each form, all without requiring us to provide a full portal for each applicant. And behind the scenes, this setup helps us stay compliant with grant funding requirements by ensuring we can track exactly who accesses and submits each application.
On this one, I guess I just love how even without that full portal experience, that you can require guests to verify who they are. So you always know exactly who submitted what. Okay, so those were our demos. Let's now take a quick look at a couple of real customers and what they are already doing with guest access.
Yeah, let's do it. I think it's one thing to see how it works in a demo, obviously still very useful, but seeing actual results from our customers is really what helps brings it to life. So, our first customer we have is Phoenix Labor Consultants. They partner with businesses that are looking to hire seasonal or temporary workers, and they guide over 250 clients through complex paperwork involved in that process. The company's president, Amanda Wright, told us that prior to using guest access, her team was regularly checking every client facing form just to see which clients still had tasks to complete. Then they'd compile lists, figure out which forms needed action, and follow up with reminder phone calls. I'm sure there was plenty of phone tag happening as a result of those phone calls. And now, with guest access, all 250 clients have their forms consolidated and clearly presented as tasks within their portal. Amanda and her team simply send out one link to the portal, and clients can log in to view and complete any outstanding tasks on their own, minimizing the need for staff to follow up manually. And the absolute best part, clients can see exactly what the staff members see. That alone has helped clear up so much of their confusion that they previously used to have to deal with. And one of my favorite things is her quote here, because it really shows how much this feature impacts not just external users, but also the internal team as well, because so much time is saved. And saving 250 hours a year is huge. That's real time Amanda's team is getting back. And she's always sending us updates about how much loves this feature and how much it's really truly helped her team just consolidate their work and streamline the things they do.
Yeah, and 250 years, oh my goodness, hours is so much time. And That actually comes out to more than 6 weeks of full-time work, which is mind-blowing to me. That's 6 weeks that their team can actually spend with clients instead of chasing people down. Okay, let's look at MacEwan University now. MacEwan University is a public university in Alberta, Canada, and they have over 18,000 full and part-time students. The university's applications analyst, Brandon Schwartz, is currently leading their team in setting up guest access for around 3,500 employees. And they are giving those employees the ability to track past submissions. These are people who they're not building forms, but they just need to keep track of the status of their submissions, like for various HR related requests and things like that. And they're doing this on a relatively less frequent basis. So previously, employees searched through emails or frequently contacted other staff about the status of their request. And then in addition to this, the university was also looking for a way to verify who submitted every request so they could ensure that the right people were actually the ones submitting them. So now with guest access, they've locked down those internal forms requiring employees to verify their email before accessing them. And Brandon and his team can track who submitted every entry, all without employees typing out their information every single time, because the forms simply pre-populate all of the employees' information because the form's logic actually knows exactly who is accessing it. So now employees are able to serve themselves by tracking the status of their past submissions independently, and they no longer have to reach out to other people, which saves their team time in the long run.
Definitely. And I think that's so useful, especially when you consider how many forms are being submitted across such a large employee base. But now we have one more poll that we want to ask you all. After seeing the demos and hearing these real life customer stories, how ready are you to try guest access yourself? And we've popped it up on the screen now. Yeah, definitely makes sense.
And if you, just to the people who are saying they need to see the setup process and things like that, our user guides will definitely help with that. But also reach out to our customer support team. They can help kind of drill down some of those specific questions you have.
Definitely. And I get it. It's a new feature. So it's still, you of course need to see how it would fit, how it would work with your organization. But hopefully taking a look at our videos as well as our support content, aka user guides, will help clear some of that up for you all. Okay, so moving forward, what does this mean for your organization? It really comes down to 4 key benefits. Number 1, minimize the back and forth. Guest access helps your workflows run more smoothly by reducing the need for those manual follow-ups, as we've previously touched on. With self-service portals and automatic task reminders, your team spends less time chasing people down and more time focused on all the meaningful work.
And benefit number 2, everything is actually secure now. So you can give your guests secure access to see what's important and relevant to them, all without compromising privacy and making sure that each guest only sees those things that are relevant to them.
Yeah, and benefit number 3 is deliver professional experiences. You'll impress your clients, customers, guests with a natural and consistent experience that helps build trust and reinforces your organization's credibility with your guests. So it's really nice to be able to take your organization and extend it to all those external users who might not be a part of your Cognito Forms work.
And last but not least, it is flexible enough for any process. So it doesn't matter if you're a small business or maybe you're an agency, nonprofit, or maybe you work in healthcare. Guest access really adapts to the way that you work and not the other way around, regardless of the type of guest, form, or process that is involved.
Definitely. It's very, very versatile. So, since originally launching this feature, we've also added a few more capabilities. The first one we have here is View as Guest. And this is a feature that gives owners and admins the ability to experience the portal they've set up as a guest without having to add yourself as a guest or to test it out in that way. You as an admin or owner can explore the forms, entries, and workflow access, sort of like in a preview window, how you do when building forms. And this essentially makes it very easy when you test what your guests will see when they log in, and it makes the setup process and troubleshooting a whole lot easier.
Yeah, this feature has been really useful for testing. Something else that we offer is custom branding with our custom appearance feature. You can add your logo and brand colors to your Cognito Forms organization. So when you watch our demos, the little Cognito Forms logo up in the top could be yours with your organization name next to it. And then like the buttons and different things throughout your organization can be branded to your colors, which is really cool. So it really makes the entire space feel like a natural extension of your business for everybody who is engaging with it. And it really just elevates that experience for your guests when they are logging into your portal.
Yeah, I love that. And lastly, we have guest registration. With this feature, you can enable guests to register and join your portal on their own using your organization's link. That way, even if you don't have your guest information ahead of time, or if you have a niche situation where you might want them to register on their own, you can use this feature and they can simply add themselves to a guest list and gain access to a portal without you having to create entries for them or adding them yourself.
Okay, so these additional features have really made the guest experience even more powerful and a lot even more flexible for you. Having the ability to kind of choose what you want to use there is really nice. Okay, let's quickly look at how you can get started using guest access today. So if you are new, you can sign up for a free 14-day trial of a team or enterprise plan, and you will have access to this feature with a certain number of guests. And don't forget that you can sign up for that trial without putting in any credit card information. So you can really test out whether it works for you without any worries. And then if you are already a customer, which I know a lot of you were with the poll, you can simply upgrade to a team or enterprise plan if you aren't already on that level. And then once you're on one of those plans, you just enable guest access from your organization settings and kind of go from there. You'll want to follow our user guides to set everything up for your needs. And then we also have multiple YouTube videos embedded on our user guide pages. And those are really helpful to actually see how it all works in real time and how to set everything up. So Deepa put the link on your screen right there. So you can click on that, save the link for later, and that'll take you to all the information you need.
Yeah, please feel free again to use our customer support team as well as the user guides and videos as much as you need when setting this up. So next, we have a couple of common questions about guest access that we wanted to go ahead and address. The first question being, how much does guest access cost? Well, if you're on the team or enterprise plan already, guest access comes included and you'll automatically receive a set of guests. If you're not on either of those plans already, you'll first have to upgrade in order to use this feature at all. The team plan comes with 5 guests included, while the enterprise plan comes with 20 guests included. If you need more than the included set of guests on either of those plans, we offer pricing buckets based on your usage. Pricing starts at $25 a month and scales up from there as you add more guests. And you can find the pricing table either on a website or also on your organization settings under plan and billing.
Okay, the next question we get a lot is, what is the difference between a user and a guest? And how we like to break this down is users are members of your Cognito Forms organization. You typically add them from your organization settings, and they have the ability to have full access to create forms, manage workflows, handle administrative tasks, things like that. They don't necessarily have to have full access based on the permission level that you've given them, but they can if you wanted to. On the other hand, guests are external people. So thinking like clients, customers, patients, students, people like that, that only need access to specific forms and their own submissions. Guests can't see your organization's backend or other guest information. They can't build forms or see any of your settings. It's simply their own submissions and what you have allowed them to see on those entries, and that is it.
Yeah, and the third question we have is, how can I ensure that only people on my guest list can access a form's public link? So this might be something that only works for certain situations, but we have had many customers ask us this. So when using a guest list, you can typically connect your form to it using a person field, and this field should be set to default to the person logging in. In order to ensure that only someone from that guest list is able to access the form, you'll need to configure the form to allow public links only when the person field is filled out. This ensures that only the select people on that guest list can access and complete the form.
And really quick, I did see a question just came in, if funds can be collected on the platform. So you can collect payment from guests in the portal and on these forms verifying their email and all of that as well. Okay, that is everything we've had today. I know we covered a lot. We looked at the challenges of external collaboration. We talked about some practical solutions of how it can work and saw a couple real stories from customers. So guest access really creates this more efficient, secure, and professional way of working with those people outside of your organization. And we really hope that we can help you even further in figuring out how this can work for you and your organization.
Yeah, and thank you so much for joining us today. You'll again receive the recording in the next couple of days. We're grateful for your time. And if you have any follow-up questions or specific questions, which I know I saw a couple in the chat, our customer success team is more than happy to help. Feel free to send those questions their way. And again, we're really very excited to see how you'll use guest access, and hopefully you will use it, to see how you'll build portals and transform your external collaboration with guests. This has truly been such a fun session, and thank you again for spending time with us here today.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye.